So to get some perspective here, right, I had talked about the tax adjustments, which were managing 3,000 to 5,000 tax adjustments. In the initial state, it took 30 minutes to create one of those, right? If you create a tax adjustment, right, you go through, somebody has to prepare it, somebody has to review it, somebody has to approve it, depending upon what size it is and what nature it takes. Then it has to go to another level who looks at that from the overall company perspective. They review it and approve it. Depending upon the nature of that, it goes to an attorney. The attorney goes and reviews and approves it. And think about that. We're going to do that 3,000 to 5,000 times every single quarter, right? Very much, significant amount of fun, right? Then, so we looked at that. That was taking up lots and lots of time, and kind of challenging because that was all being done via email, Excel spreadsheets, and share drives. So what did we do? We couldn't continue down that road, right? So we looked at that. We looked at Appian. Appian is how we chose to get our process under control. So Appian had a lot of benefits for us, right? So Appian's a great workflow tool. We were able to configure it and customize it to capture the specific data that we needed and to be able to control the process and have it route and the approvals to where we need it. So if you go through that, again, depending upon what the specific item looked like, the rules are very different, right? So depending upon what location it came from, depending upon what the amount was, depending upon what the nature of the item was, it would be routed to different people. So Appian allowed us to get that and be able to get and manage that process and control it, right? So we were able to go through. The other nice part about Appian is, again, we're a highly regulated industry. So we have auditors in there all the time that want to look at the details of what was done, who did it, why they do it, what the decision makers were, and Appian gives us that complete, total audit trail. So Appian, we were able to quickly develop a process to get one of our major areas, this tax authority audit adjustments, which is one of several discrete items that you have within a taxing business. We're able to use Appian to kind of build that out quickly. The other part that we needed to do, we needed to have the integration capabilities that Appian gives us, right? Because if we take a look at that, it's not about just the current workflow of getting something done, right? We also have to be able to demonstrate that we did it, right? We're also capturing the financials of that activity and what the impact is period over period. And so because of Appian's integration capabilities, we're able to save that off, and our reporting for that is extremely significant and very complex, and those things can take years to work themselves through. So Appian gave us all that. So here's our simplified architecture, right? You should have saw this before we introduced the transformation program, right? Because before we did the transformation program, we went through and we had hundreds and hundreds of spreadsheets, potentially thousands of spreadsheets on shared drives. Email was the way we'd exchange things. I would do my piece, email it to someone else who would do their piece. They would go through and send it back. You get to the point, and when you're doing your company and you're running your activities on an Excel-based process, A, you never know who has the most current version, right? B, you never know who may have made a change to a formula embedded in some cell, right? So your reliability and auditability of that Excel spreadsheet is pretty challenging. So this is kind of the journey of where we're at. If we take a look at the upper left-hand corner where we have the workflow solutions, we've gone through, we've built we used Appian to front-end the document management system. So on the back end, we have a document manager, but our rules were very, very specific and how we had to manage our documents. We were able to utilize Appian A to allow people to capture the document, describe all the metadata about that document, load it up, and have the security controls around who could access, view it, and see it. Appian, one of our requirements on the document management system is when we upload it, if it's legally sensitive and requires legal privilege, we upload the document with legal privilege, and then we utilize Appian with within our database, we go and track who loaded it, when was it loaded, and we also have a historical record of every time anybody ever accessed that document. So, in order to maintain legal privilege, we utilized Appian to facilitate that, right? On the discrete item side, I talked about the TAAA process. There's also on that piece, there's a what is called a thin 48, which is basically anytime you have an uncertain tax position. So, as anybody's here, if you filed your tax return, you could say, I'm going to take a deduction of this amount for this charitable activity, right? So, if you take it on a personal basis, on a company basis, sometimes you're interpreting tax law, so everything is not black and white. And when you interpret tax law, sometimes you have an uncertain tax position. Well, we have to track all those, right? We have to track all those, and all those things get disclosed in the financial reports, right? So when we have those, we utilize Appian to be able to help track and manage all that. The other part is we talked about the tax planning process. So we have we use an Appian workflow that's basically, and that's where we call it our tax track, which people can submit ideas about, how we could save taxes. Those ideas go through a very formal review process, an approval process, and then tracking of the implementation of the ideas that are selected. So we utilize Appian for that particular process as well, right? We use Appian as our integration platform to kind of connect the dots for us. We take a look at the bottom portion of this, over the next 18 months, we are integrating in with multiple SAP platforms, Millennium, a variety of our data sources, and being able to pull that through our tax data repository and then expose that throughout the rest of our applications. And again, Appian will play a very critical role for things that aren't an ETL automated sort of process. Anywhere there's a manual touch and decision to be made, we're going to use Appian to kind of orchestrate that process.